everyone. Babula and I are back with you for our Astrology Now segment. And there is a few things to cover this month. Or I should say there are a few things to cover this month. But I guess I was just saying to Babula before our pre-chat before we record this about how in astrology, when we talk about the age of Aquarius, we often talk about the revolution and the freedom fighting, those sorts of things, which come under the auspices of Aquarius. And we sometimes tend to forget the scientific changes, or I guess you could say, the evolution of science with Aquarius. And we're seeing a lot of things happening in space science at the moment, like there's always, I'm trying to think of the word now, there's always more planets being discovered in the field of exoplanet research. And just today I was reading an article about scientists now believe that we may have discovered a fifth element in our physics, which is going to change the way that scientists understand physics and may actually explain, or be able to explain in the future, some paranormal phenomena, which are actually, can be explained by science. So that's very exciting.
It is, and it's a really good point because, this is the sign that embraces or energetically connects us to science and technology and knowledge, and it's often like knowledge that just can expand and grow exponentially. Like all of a sudden there can be great leaps, can't there? Like boom, and a whole foundation of understanding shifts in a very short space of time. Because of some new realization or knowledge or revelation that's come in from wherever it's come in from.
And it wasn't that long ago we were, 3D printing was printing small items. Now we're printing 3D houses, or 3D printing houses in a day.
That's
and I
right.
think that's amazing. And this is being done in an effort to be able to house people on the planet and get them out of that third world status, I guess you could say. And that's that humanitarian side of Aquarius too, isn't it?
Yeah, there's lots and lots of things that are included in this, and all kinds of ethical issues as well that go along with it. There's always so many sides to all of these things. But yes, science, technology, knowledge, space travel, other beings from other planets and dimensions, time travel. Look, we don't know what the future is going to look like in terms of those things in, even a couple of 100 years. I think the place will be unrecognizable. And let's hope it's for the benefit of humankind and not for its detriment, So if it can, like everything, it can be developed and take a really positive pathway, or it can be used in a nefarious way as well. But absolute explosions of knowledge are going to just keep happening.
Well, even 50 years ago, things were very different.
That's right.
And I was just having a chat with someone the other day, only probably, what was it, about 20 years ago, people were carrying around mobile phones with the big batteries.
I remember.
In a bag,
No, that was not long ago.
No, it was not long ago at all. So, and technology is advancing at such a fast rate. I mean, in 50 years, I think we'll see that life is very different from what it is today.
That's right. That's right. My wish in all of that is that we don't lose our connection with the natural world, with the organic world, with the earth, with our bodies, with, those issues as well, that humanity is needing to evolve in a way that fully embraces that vast, vast knowledge, and also, is able to be fully human. So interesting times.
Yes, very much so.
Things are moving quickly.
Yeah. So I suppose we better get on with it with starting with the new moon in Taurus. So lay it on us, Babula.
Well, yes, actually, I wasn't even thinking that, but what I was just speaking to was this energy of Taurus, our connection with the earth and the natural realm. And those of you watching this who are Taurian or have significant Taurus energy in your birth chart and know Taurians, that connection with the natural world, with the earth, with the soil, with the dirt, with growing things, with Like even, Taurians are often very particular about the fabrics they wear on their skin. They want soft, natural fabrics and things that feel good. It's a sign that's very earthy, very sensual, but it's also, of course, extremely pragmatic.
Yes.
So let's look at okay, well, there's an interesting lead into that. So the new moon is on the 12th, and for those of us on the eastern side of Australia, that's Wednesday the 12th at 5 a.m. is the exact moment of the new moon. And of course, for the couple of days before and following the exact new moon, we're in the dark phase of the moon. And then slowly the new cycle builds and we start to see her slither of that lovely crescent shape appear in the sky and so on. So that's on the 12th. On the 8th, just some days before this new moon, Ceres moved into Taurus. So Ceres, I just wanted to touch on that because she'll be in Taurus for about another 7 weeks till the end of July. Now, Ceres, some years ago, was by the astronomers promoted to the status of minor planet. And it happened at the same time that they demoted Pluto from status of planet to minor planet. Of course, all the astrologers basically just laughed at that, try and demote Pluto. Well, good luck with that. Like he's still Pluto.
Yeah.
That's right. But they're always looking to sort of categorize according to size and position and behavior and so on and so on. Anyway, Ceres is an important body and some consider her as important as a planet. She's an asteroid, but she's the largest of them and the first one discovered in 1801. And she was named after the great mother goddess Ceres or Demeter. And she is very much a deity, an archetype, a figure who maintains, takes care of the earth, the fertility of the earth, the crops, the land, the people, the fertility of the people, that women can easily birth healthy babies, that the land is fertile and feeds the people. This is Ceres. And she's always depicted as a mature goddess with a sheath of wheat. You'll see her with the sheath of wheat. She's about agriculture, food. She represents those kind of themes. And how appropriate that she's now in Taurus to the end of July. And so, well, actually, that's longer than 7 weeks, isn't it? That's I always forget track of where we are. So it's about 11 weeks. She'll be in the sign of Taurus, which I think is a beautiful sign for Ceres to be in. So she will be really bringing forward in the world those themes of, agriculture, food supply, food security, food toxicity, as the land, the soil, agricultural land being poisoned, and people in their laboratories, creating fake food and so on and so on. So these are a lot of the issues, droughts, floods, and so on. But it's also our own relationship with the earth. And do we want to look at how natural our own food is? What choices are we making around our food, and so on?
Yeah, so we might see a swing in the public choice more towards buying organic food. Or
I think so.
Again.
Yeah.
Last year, but that was to do with Capricorn, wasn't it, last year?
Yeah, that's right, which is another earth sign. And there's more and more people starting to go, I think about now is a good time for me to start digging up that vegetable garden in my backyard that I've been talking about for years.
Yeah, well, I've just replanted for the season. Yeah, so
That's right.
It's a bit cooler.
That's right. It's a good time to do that, especially up here in Queensland. So I just wanted to bring that in because we're going to be talking about the Taurus new moon, and that Ceres is now, and she's also, her symbol looks like a sickle, to sort of harvest the wheat. And I was just watching something by that extraordinary Indian woman, what's her name? Vandana Shiva, I think her name is, if I got that right. What an extraordinary woman she is. She very much stands up as a powerful voice in India, but for the world. She's a highly educated, knowledgeable woman, science background. And this is the meeting again of science and earth,
Yeah.
scientific background. So she knows her stuff. For basic land farming in India, which has been taken over by the big conglomerates and the big pharmaceutical companies and so on. And they're destroying the earth and destroying people's livelihoods and women. So she's very much in support of women because Taurus is a feminine sign.
Yes.
It's earth, it's ruled by Venus, the goddess. So these are some of the kind of issues that we're facing. And even in our own small personal world, what choices are we making, but also what's going on in the collective. So the new moon will be at 21 degrees of Taurus on the 12th. So that's when the sun and the moon join up. So the sun's in Taurus still for another 10 days or so. So 21 degrees of Taurus. So this new moon is about these themes of biosecurity. And of course, that word's been abducted in the public sphere as well. What does that actually mean if we look into that? Really, what does that mean for us all? Our sovereign rights as human beings to make choices about what we eat, about what medicines we take, and so on and so on. But Taurus is also a money sign. And so it highlights and brings up themes and issues around money, our resources, our finances, our money in the bank, important decisions we have to make. I think you'll find that, the sun's been in Taurus for about 3 weeks now, so that most of us will be really addressing money issues and going, I think I need to draw up that budget I've been talking about forever and get myself a bit organized, and get a bit serious and focused about what I'm doing with my finances.
Yeah.
And whether people have lost jobs or they're looking for work or they've got a great job that they love or they're doing a job they don't love, but they feel like have to stay in it because they need to pay their mortgage or raise their children. There's all these kinds of things that arise. And in the Taurus energy, there's this impulse to somehow come back to basics, really back to basics, back to earth, let's get back to earth, let's get real, drop the fantasies and the ideals, let's get real and foundational. What are the foundations? And so this new moon has got a lot to do with that, a relationship with the earth, with nature, with our bodies, with our food, and our situation with money, finances, and how we might look to the future about the financial choices we're making now. I always think of my father, who was a Taurian, and he pretty much throughout his life ticked off every box you could ever attribute to Taurus activities. Did every single one, and including being a farmer for a long period. And he grew up on a farm, on a cane farm at Bundaberg, but, and having land. But he always, from a child, I remember him always talking about money and finances and the future. Taurus is not a futuristic sign, but it's like getting organized, being prepared, getting real, working it out, having a plan.
Yeah, that's interesting because I guess a portrayal of that in the sign of Aquarius too is how it relates to that is I saw something recently where scientists now want to put a seed bank in some of the tunnels. I think it was on the moon. So so I'm thinking Taurus, Aquarius, futuristic, like all the things that you were saying about being organized and a sense of preparedness for the future. And that's such a classic example of that playing out.
It is. And it brings us back to the main astrological story of 2021, which is Uranus in Taurus, making these big squares to Saturn in Aquarius throughout this year. And that's the main astrological theme of the year, Taurus, Aquarius. And it's interesting that, we started there, didn't we? You brought that up, that Aquarian issue. And it's not that one sign's better than the other. It's never that. It's, we're dealing with these two very, very different energies in a dynamic of real tension. There's this tremendous kind of push-pull tension between these two realms, and we're having to negotiate our way through that and figure out how to do them both and find some way for these two energies that seem to be so kind of opposing forces.
I think if you
kind of nut this out.
if people think of the planets as individuals who are on a committee and they have to figure out ways to work together, or when some don't work together, what are the others going to do about it? You know, those sorts of things. So it's about negotiation, it's about aversion, rejection. And just think of their planets as individuals.
Exactly.
And what happens when you put a group of individuals together over time and how the dynamics play out.
That's right. Because in that square dynamic, there is a sense of each individual wants to win the game.
Yeah.
You know, so they're at loggerheads.
Yes, yes.
So, and it's that earthy energy versus this kind of energy of intellect and consciousness and intelligence and science and technology versus, you know, so this woman, you know, she's a highly intelligent woman with her eye on humanity and the future and where we're going, but also that Taurian earthy grounded, let's get real, let's get back down to earth, you know, the embodiment. We're in a body, you know, consciousness, Aquarius in a body. Yeah. That's the story, isn't it?
It is. You know, it's a bit of a Dr. Phil. You can have all these ideas and things, but it's like, how's that working for you? You know.
That's right. That's right. And in Aquarius, well, we are all in this together, although there's all sorts of levels of that. But, you know, we're all here together in this situation. That's right. Interesting. So extraordinary. So one thing I wanted to bring in about the new moon, and I could wax on about this for hours, but I shall see if I can refrain and hold myself back a little bit. But it's the black moon Lilith is right here on this new moon. And I will have touched on that previously. It's a bit of a hobby horse of mine.
It is, I know.
Yes. And I'm actually about to schedule a couple of Zoom seminars about it again. So the black moon Lilith is sitting right on, like they're just all aligned. The sun, the moon, and the black moon Lilith are right here because she's currently in Taurus as well. And she's in one sign for about 9 months. So just in a nutshell, what she represents is the repressed, denied, controlled, demonized feminine energy. And when we experience her in that way, you know, we feel downtrodden, confused, depressed, maybe angry, we don't know who we are and so on. But when we start waking up to that energy and start healing all those old wounds as women, but also in men, but I'll focus mainly on women at the moment, then when we start really reconnecting with this, it actually brings us back to the power of the feminine and our desire and need to find a way to live equally and in harmony with the masculine, because our world is extremely out of balance. You know, it's just has been for a long, long time. And I'm of the view that one of the main keys to this is that the feminine masculine principles, the yin yang principles, are out of balance. You know, yang's up here so a balancing needs to happen. It's going to take a while. You know, there's been certainly great improvements in many ways, but we've still got a long way to go. And it's not just about women's lib. There's so many issues in this. And I've been looking into this for years and feeling into it and thinking about it. And it's to me, it kind of includes practically everything that's going on planet Earth. So it's a big story.
It is a big story. It's a very long story too.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about that, I'm thinking about the witch trials, because a lot of the healers were women.
That's right.
And I believe, I mean, people think that witches were burned, but I think they're actually hanged, weren't they? They weren't actually.
All kinds of nefarious, torturous, horrible things we use to silence them, to get rid of them.
Yeah, and they weren't witches.
Frighten the population to toe the line, you know.
Yeah, they weren't witches. They were actually healers, and um,
Midwives.
and people who had esoteric knowledge and an understanding about health and
That's
healing and how to work with the energies of the elements.
mm,
Um, and I think, I mean, I'm sure it started before that, you know, but it takes me back to that time. And then in the late 1800s, I've just been watching things about women fighting for the rights and for the right to vote and for their their equal rights, and then that led into the suffragette
that's
movement
right.
and all of that sort of thing, you know. And
That's right. And on that, it's interesting you brought that up because it was in the early 1800s that these first asteroids were being discovered and named. And they named the first, I'm not sure of the exact number of the first one. There's now thousands and thousands of them that have been named. But in the beginning, they were named after goddesses, which was a complete change because up until then, there's only one planet that was named after a goddess, and that was Venus. All
yeah.
the others were named after male gods because that was the time.
Mm.
But so that represented like a new consciousness coming in about the feminine, which was reflected in the suffragette movement that was really beginning to kick off at that same time.
Yes, yes.
Just simply just wanting the vote and to have a certain amount of financial. We're back to Taurus, financial freedom. And one of the themes that I often see for people with the black moon in Taurus is that they've experienced themselves and also with their mothers and grandmothers how repressed they were and controlled they were financially. They had very few rights and power and independence financially.
Yes, yes.
And that's a black moon in Taurus theme, but it's also about the earth and the fertility and nature and so on.
Women have come a long way.
A long way. And that's right. We're not there yet.
No.
But because to me, it's about the future of humanity and this beautiful earth we live in to begin to get that balance right.
Yeah.
And it's also about the left brain, right brain. That's all like out of whack too in the collective. We've got to get those hemispheres, the masculine, feminine hemispheres, fully talking to each other.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to just bring that in because that's one of the main themes here. I mean, Taurus is also about art and music and beauty and beautiful things. Taurians love beautiful, gorgeous things. They just it's a sign that has a kind of deliciousness to it, a sumptuousness to it. It's earthy and round and fecund and fertile. So tapping into that's a really nice thing to do around this full moon.
Yeah.
In some way, go and have lovely massages, sit out in the sun, enjoy your garden, get your finances sorted.
Yeah. New moon, I think you meant to say.
Or new moon. What did I say?
You said full moon.
Okay, new moon. Thank you.
You're doing a Cheryl from last time. Okay, what else does May bring us?
So just to backtrack a few days, I thought I'd go from Ceres in Taurus straight to the new moon in Taurus. On the 9th, Venus came out of Taurus and moved into Gemini. So now Venus is in Gemini for about 3 weeks. So, and I'm going to come to, there's more to say about Gemini further down the track, but Venus in Gemini, I think I did bring that in last time. There's this tremendous sociability that comes with Venus in Gemini. If you know anyone with Venus in Gemini, and I know a few that just love to be with people and connect with people and share and communicate and have happy times with people and meet up with friends. And, that's a beautiful thing. I think, Venus quite enjoys being in Gemini because Venus has got a lot to do with relating with people. We know how sociable Geminis in general, there's always exceptions, can be.
Yes. How they have to be aware that they don't people themselves out, though.
That's right. That's right.
From experience.
That's right. Need to know also when to switch off.
Yes.
So yeah, but it's a great time for us to, and I've noticed I've been quite sort of busy socially and people are popping up and I'm meeting people that I haven't seen for ages for coffee and think, oh, I'll just be 20 minutes and 3 hours later, we're still having a really fantastic conversation.
Yeah.
So that's been happening quite a bit. So enjoy it because that's what Venus and Gemini loves to do.
Yeah.
So here's another big story. Following on from the new moon on the 12th, on the 14th, our friend Jupiter,
Oh,
the
yeah.
ruler of Sagittarius,
Yep.
and all things big and large and expanded and expensive, I will also say, moves into Pisces. Now, this is really significant because Jupiter throughout 2021 is primarily spending the year in Aquarius. Jupiter spends pretty much a year in each sign. But because of its retrograde phase, no, that's not what I meant to say at all. But just the way it's moving, it will actually slip into the first couple of degrees of Pisces for about 2.5 months. So on the 14th of May, Jupiter goes into Pisces to the end of July. Only the first couple of degrees. So if any of you have a planet in very early Pisces, and I do, my North Node's there at 0. So Jupiter's going to sit on my North Node. Yay! I'm looking forward. Good. Like it. And then it will retrograde and come back into Aquarius for the rest of the year. So we get a glimpse and a taste of the Jupiter in Pisces story that will come in fully in 2022. Now, does Jupiter like being in Pisces? You bet he does, because before Neptune was discovered, Jupiter was the ruler of Sagittarius, but also of Pisces. And these two signs, one thing they do share in common is they love to be they are naturally very expansive. There's a kind of boundarylessness in a way.
Yeah.
You know, it's very kind of open. Like with Jupiter, it's just loves everything that's large and expansive. And Pisces, that you can take that even further out to have absolutely no boundaries whatsoever, which can be a challenge. But there's this sense of openness and expansiveness that you get with this. So a beautiful thing with Jupiter in Pisces, it can really open us up spiritually. It's a beautiful opportunity for anyone who is so inclined to make the most of that 2.5 months to really focus on your spirituality, whatever that means for you. And that's a different thing for every individual.
Yes,
You know,
it
there's
is.
no program, there's no strictures about that. It's like, what does that mean to you? And to keep exploring, because Jupiter is a planet of exploration. You're like, I wonder what that's about. And I need to know more about that. I need to find out. So things will happen that will expand those potential Piscean states of bliss sometimes, you know, enjoyment. Like, I know the thing that shifts my space immediately is beautiful music. And what's beautiful music to me may not be beautiful music to you. You might go, oh, yeah, she just told me to listen to this, but like it's not doing anything for me. And I'm like off in some ecstatic reverie about it. You know, so we're all different in that way.
Yes.
So music, the arts, it's like an invitation to actually go dreamy for a while.
Yes. Yeah. With that Piscean energy.
That's right. Almost kind of go off planet a bit.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
I know, it's nice. It just occurred to me. Or get down to the beach, get to the sea, be near water, like time out. Join a meditation group, or, you know, sign up to something online if you're good at having the discipline to follow up on those kinds of things, because you can get great benefit. You might have extraordinary dreams. Start opening up our intuition, our consciousness in all sorts of different and unusual and interesting ways. You know, things. The thing about Jupiter is things don't always go according to plan. It's the sign that teaches us to go with the flow, to surrender, to follow the guidance, to go, well, I was trying to make this happen and it hasn't worked. Let it go.
Yes.
Open up to what else needs to happen. Something else might need to be coming in.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
I'm wondering where Pluto is in that.
Pluto's not really connected to that story.
Oh, good.
No, he's not related to this movement of Jupiter into Pisces at all.
Yeah.
You know, he's still over there at the end of Capricorn doing his
Oh, yes.
important work.
Mm.
You know, he's completing that piece, and he's still got a way to go to keep dredging it up.
Mm.
Doing a magnificent job too, might I add. Good old Pluto. So Jupiter in Pisces, like traditionally in esoteric astrology, in Vedic astrology, is said to be very, very fortuitous and beneficial for all things spiritual, as long as we're, you know, maintaining certain kind of boundaries and groundedness about it, and not just going like completely off the wall about it, you know, but it can be very, very beautiful. Very beautiful thing. Like if you're an artist or a musician, like really letting the muse come through and guide you, and sort of, you know, get out of the way and just let it move through.
Well, that Pisces is very sensitive, isn't it?
Very, that's right. We might, glad you mentioned that, because it can also make us at times feel absolutely overwhelmed. Because Jupiter's so big in its energy, and Pisces is just so open and vast, you know, to experience and feel all things. The world is overwhelming.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially these days, it's overwhelming. And, you know, Pisces also governs things like drugs,
Yeah.
alcohol, addictions, medications, and so on. You know, there's a lot going on in the mass field around all of that currently.
Now, there could be some, I guess, magnification of escapism.
Yes.
Yes.
There may also be an increase in souls departing this world
Yes.
with Jupiter in Pisces. Absolutely. I mean, that's a factor of life that happens.
Yeah.
But we might find an increase. You know, Jupiter literally brings increase. You know, he's the planet of more.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, his partner or his opposite side, Saturn, tends to bring constriction and constraint and decrease, and Jupiter flings open the doors.
Another key word I've read for Pisces is sacrificial.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, which can be, in my understanding and own experience, a beautiful and positive thing on a soul level, to make, you know, to consciously choose to sacrifice something for some higher good or the benefit of someone else, or we can be programmed to sacrifice ourselves for no one's real benefit, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
You know? Yeah, and to our own detriment. So maybe, very good point. It may be a good time to look at, you know, am I sacrificing myself and actually harming myself in the process?
Yes. Am I being a doormat here?
That's right. Or am I making very clear, conscious, soul-centered choice to make a sacrifice here? And I'm very clear about what that is.
And
They
I
can be
find,
quite different things.
yeah, and in families, I've, as a therapist, I've spoken to a lot of people over the years, and I find that there's always someone in the family who comes to see me who feels that they are sacrificing their own um, or they're taking on the responsibility of other people. So they're sacrificing their own needs, is what I'm
Yes.
trying to say. Yeah.
Yes.
They get into this rescuer syndrome in the family.
Exactly.
They're
Exactly.
always the one who refills the toilet roll holder, or the one who clears the kitchen because others won't do it. And so I think it's a good time for people to step back and just have a look. Well, you know, I think I might need to stop doing that and start delegating a bit and stop sacrificing my own life energy for other
Yeah.
people.
That's right. For what?
Yeah.
That's right. The doormat syndrome, as you said, and it's the savior syndrome, you know, or it can, Pisces can very easily go into that. You know, I'll save you, I'll save you, I'll save you, I'll be the rescuer. So all these themes will definitely come forward during those 2.5 months, from the middle of May through to the end of July. We'll certainly be touching on that more. But remember, I said it only goes into the first couple of, I think it gets up to 2 or 3 degrees of Pisces.
Okay.
And then it will come back into Aquarius. Okay. Then on the 21st, the sun will leave Taurus and go into Gemini. So by then we'll have Venus and the Sun in Gemini, but remember Mercury's currently in Gemini. So we'll have a lot to say about Mercury in a minute, being in Gemini. So when the Sun comes up, while we're in this Taurus phase, Sun in Taurus for 4 weeks, we're dealing with these pragmatic, practical concerns of the earth, of food, of money, of our land, our property, all of these kinds of things. And our sensuality, and maybe you suddenly find yourself, you have to have beautiful aromatherapy around you every day because the Sun's in Taurus,
Yes.
just feeling that,
Yeah.
anointing yourself with lovely oils and so on.
Yeah, bringing more plants into the living area, which I've just done.
Yes, that's right. Repotting all your plants,
Yeah.
digging up the veggie garden, getting that going.
Yeah.
Exactly. When it goes into Gemini, then we have 4 weeks of Gemini energy really kicking in. And so we come out of that pragmatic fixed earth energy into mutable air. Boom. So busy, 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 busy.
I'm always busy with my
I know.
Gemini.
Yeah, it seems to be like that with me too. So it will be the Sun, Venus, and Mercury all in Gemini.
And when does that line up?
Well, the Sun on the 21st goes into Gemini. Yep. And look, if we're paying attention, you'll notice it. I often forget, and it'll be a day or two later, I go, God, it's been a bit crazy the last 2 days. And I look back and I go, duh, the Sun just went into Gemini.
Yeah.
On the 23rd, speaking of Saturn, as we mentioned him a minute ago, Saturn turns retrograde. Now, that means for about the week prior to that, Saturn slows right down to a standstill. The planets don't stop and change direction in the sky. They keep moving, but it's all about the fact that we on Earth are not at the center of the solar system. We're in the solar system. So sometimes it looks as though planets that have gone past us stop and go back. It's just because we've moved on past. It's like an effect that has a real impact on us. It really does affect us. So in that week leading up to the 23rd, Saturn slows right down, and for many days he will literally just be sitting on 13 degrees of Aquarius. And then from the 23rd, he slowly appears from Earth to be moving backwards. Now, this is a normal occurrence. Every single year, Saturn goes retrograde for about 5 months. That means that almost half the population will have Saturn retrograde in their birth chart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yep. So it's about 40% or something. So he's in Aquarius, moving slowly through Aquarius, and is just going to go through a retrograde phase. So when these slow-moving outer planets actually change direction like this, we feel it very strongly. So around those few days, it's going to feel quite Saturnian, which can sometimes just be translated as tough.
Yeah.
You might feel a bit hard, a bit tough, a bit hard going, or you're just working extra hard. You're having to focus, be organized, very disciplined. We might feel heavy, a bit depressed, like, oh God, what's happening? I feel like the weight of the world sitting on my shoulders. We've just got so much to deal with. How am I going to get through it all?
Yeah, it's quite sober, isn't it?
Sobering is a great word.
Yeah.
Very sobering. So it's really good to understand that. And I think, but the benefit of Saturn going retrograde is that we go into review. We review every time planets retrograde. Think of all the RE words. We return, we review, we revise, we revisit.
Regress.
We regress. Yes, they all fit retrograde phases. Actually, they do. Revise, reconsider. We're going, I was going full ahead, and now I'm kind of questioning that, and I'm wondering, or maybe I need to reorganize how I was going to go about that and get, restructure things, because that's a planet of structure.
So how does that affect the Saturn square Uranus story?
Well, that's a part of it, because I made a note actually. Next month, in the middle of next month, we'll get the second square between Saturn and Uranus, and Saturn will be in its retrograde phase. And so that will be a very strong theme for us all individually and in the collective, in the world, and we'll certainly be talking more about that in June. So that tension between the Saturnian need for structure and stabilization and authority and regulation and so on, in all kinds of ways, in conflict with the Uranian urge to push up against that and rebel and break free and so on, just gets intensified. And when one of them's retrograde, it
So
really
we'll probably see more demonstrations around the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, things
Absolutely.
like that.
And again, it's across that Aquarius Taurus story that we were talking about. Yep. You know, those fixed signs, like strong determination to have your way, and which two very strong planets.
Yes.
Yeah. So then, so May, there's more. May was always going to be quite strong. But these are quite strong themes. On the 26th, we come to the full moon, which is the halfway point of this new cycle starting on the new moon. The full moon, the sun will be at 5 degrees of Gemini, opposite the moon at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. Why this full moon will be important is that it's a lunar eclipse. So every 6 months, the new and full moon of that month, they are eclipses. It's just, it's the astronomy and how all that kind of lines up with the nodes and so on. So it's a full moon lunar eclipse. And I always remember years ago reading in an astrology book, someone said, a full moon a lunar eclipse is like a full moon on steroids. And I've never forgotten it, because it's just that the impact of it is intensified and increased tremendously.
So full moon lunar eclipse in Gemini.
In Gemini, exactly. So that means by the end of the month, like this new moon cycle, this new moon cycle that's coming in, is actually going to birth our next eclipse period. Because we'll get the lunar eclipse on the 26th, and then 2 weeks later on the 10th of June, we'll get the solar eclipse at the next new moon, and that will be in Gemini.
Yes.
So we're seeing there's this dance at the moment between Taurus and Gemini.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. But as the planets kind of move through those two signs. And so yeah.
I'm thinking this full moon in Gemini is already, quite busy. And if it's on steroids, it's even busier. And a lot of things can happen really swiftly in that sort of energy, can't they? Very swiftly. So swift that they happen right under our nose before we even realize it.
Very. And if you put it across that Gemini Sagittarius axis, Gemini is a sign that's like swift as a Gemini word, very swift. Mercury Hermes, the god of Gemini, is fleet of foot, swift, fast, like our minds. It's the mind. Our mind's just like firing off, like we can't even keep up with it the way it moves.
Yes, yeah.
So things will happen quickly. These are mutable signs. Things move quickly.
And it can flip so quickly. It's like, because Gemini reminds me of schizophrenic energy. It can flip just like that.
It's the twins. It's the prominent sign of duality. There's a few, but it's the sign of duality, like both sides. Flip, 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 flip. But our minds do that. We're going like this. Or sorry if anyone's getting dizzy from me waving my arms in front of the camera like that. I just realized I might have not been very nice for somebody. So it's a sign of tremendous mental agility and wit and clever. I enjoy Gemini energy a lot. But if you're like in Taurus, we go, oh God, all that Gemini is too much. Taurus likes things to move at a certain steady, slower, grounded, earthy pace. Meanwhile, Gemini is just zapping around all over the place
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that's what it does.
Yeah. And I've said this before, but I can finish other people's sentences.
Yes,
I
that's
haven't really finished thinking about it. And
that's
that's
right.
that mental agility. Not always, but depending
That's
on the
right.
situation. Yeah.
And it's that natural inbuilt capacity and love for words and languages and ideas and conversations and community. I mean, this is the sign of messages. It's the message. And
Mm.
so that includes the media, newspapers, social media, all that's going on in that realm that we've talked about before. All of that is going to be very highlighted, big time.
Mm.
As from when the sun moves into Gemini on the 21st through to when the sun leaves Gemini 4 weeks later,
Mm.
around that date in June, there's a lot of Geminian action. 2 eclipses. Venus is here. She won't be there for long, but she'll leave on the 2nd of June. And these 2 eclipses will really activate all those things we've been talking about. So in the media, in the news,
Yeah.
depends which news you follow, all the stuff that's going on there is going to be so much going on. And it's going to, like you said, it's going to move fast. It's going to change. There's going to be opposing forces. There's going to be so much happening. Make our heads spin. But in addition,
I love the way you savor that.
because I do, because to add to this whole theme, of these eclipses across that Gemini-Sag axis, Mercury on the 30th turns retrograde in Gemini.
Okay.
So when Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is going at full speed, he can zip through a sign in 3 weeks. But when he does a retrograde phase, he'll be in that sign for 2.5 months. So Mercury from the 4th of May to the 12th of July is in Gemini, and from the 30th of May, at the end of this month, for 3 weeks into June, he will be retrograde in his own sign of Gemini. So Mercury's having a long stay in his own sign. So he's happy.
Yes.
But he can be a mischief maker.
Yes.
If you look at the mythology of Mercury Hermes, he wore many, many, many hats, which is very Geminian. He was the god of commerce. He was the guy of messages, of information. He'd zip around through all the dimensions and pass messages on to all sorts of people. He could zip down into the underworld. People weren't allowed down there, but he had a way to get down there if he needed to. He was also called the psychopomp, guide to guide souls down into the underworld. He was connected to medicine and healing. He was the god of the crossroads for wayfarers, for travelers. He was the god of thieves, the god of business. Why Geminis are so busy with so many things going on, Fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, goody.
I know. So I would say relish and enjoy this more relatively calm Taurus energy. Be grounded, connect with nature, with the earth, because that's really supported now. It's a wonderful opportunity to do that, because it won't be long, particularly, and interestingly enough, all this Gemini activity will be going on while Jupiter is in these first couple of degrees of Pisces, which is also a mutable sign like Gemini. Things are going to move and change fast on a daily basis,
Yes.
hour to hour.
We'll be in that, wait, what mode?
What? That's exactly right. Did you really just say that?
What? Did I just hear what I thought I heard?
And you replay the video 3 or 4 times just to double check that that's what was actually said.
Yes, yes.
That's right. So now some people thrive on this and they're going to love it. They're going to feel so alive and just full of energy and go, go, go. Others are just going to go, it's all, my brain is scrambled. I can't cope.
Yes, I tend to go into overwhelm mode and just hide and unplug for a few days.
Yeah, unplugging for a bit during this, because
Mm,
could be very good medicine, I think. Just
yeah.
switch it off for a little while. That's right.
Mm. So we have a lot coming up. Well,
It is.
it's not a lot. I guess you could say individual stories to play themselves out.
Absolutely.
We're not sort of bowled over like we were through last year, but things happening. Yeah.
It was hugely intense last year. It was
Mm.
so powerful, and nothing will ever be the same again after last year. Like, there's no way, no matter who says go back to normal. No.
Yes.
Don't go back to normal.
No, that's been and gone.
Been and gone, that's right. So yeah, so this is just a very interesting time. And eclipse seasons, coming like in the second half, or at the end of May into June, they're always intense. As you were saying before, things can happen very quickly and suddenly and dramatically. And they're catalysts. They trigger things, big things. Often there's big things happening in the earth, like volcanoes, earthquakes, things like that can happen. In the political arena, big things often happen. Famous people, people that we see as key figures in the world stage, will often depart this world around eclipses. Big things can happen in eclipse season around that sort of month or so that the eclipses are taking place. Yeah, they really trigger stuff. Yeah. And then if in our own life we have that eclipse, like that lunar eclipse coming up on the 26th, is going to sit right across my MC IC axis. So, some of us will be directly impacted in, not necessarily negatively, it can be all sorts of different things. Certainly highlighted by that eclipse. Sometimes years go by and eclipses come and go, and they don't really directly touch our own chart in any important way, and then sometimes they do.
Yes. And I'm just wondering about the lunar eclipse in Gemini, because when we have a lunar eclipse in a water sign, we often have a lot of rain. But in an air sign, do we then have more things like hurricanes and tornadoes?
It could be that wind, that's right, the air, and issues around air.
Yes.
And including things like flight. But it's also, of course, the obvious thing like information moving through the airwaves. But yes, and birds, I didn't follow it up I often, when I see things online, I often go, let me see if I can find more information about that, because often people just make stuff up.
Yeah, they do.
But there was this picture, and because I didn't have the time, follow it up, as I said, of somewhere in India. And I forget what the issue was, whether it was chemtrails or 5G, but there was this picture of the villagers all standing around, and literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of birds had fallen out of the sky dead on the ground.
Funny you should say that. I was going to bring that up as a question, because I was just having a conversation yesterday that only a couple of years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, we were seeing a lot of stories posted on social media about large animals, animals dying en masse. Do you remember that, where whales were beaching, dolphins?
Oh, yes. That's
right. There were antelopes dying, and all sorts of different animals were just found dead in en masse. And then suddenly I was commenting that we don't see those stories now. I must follow up on that and see what's actually happening. I wonder what sort of sign that might be under when there are animals being dying en masse.
Well, birds specifically would come under Gemini, the winged creatures. Yeah. Like Hermes, Mercury had wings on his helmet and wings on his feet, so he could move like really fast, through the air. So certainly the winged animals is that Gemini energy. So, and there's a lot going on in our skies that we're not always fully aware of. There's a lot. And so, yeah, those like things en masse on a large scale have often got to do with Jupiter, for example.
Okay. Mm.
Large animals is Jupiter, but also anything happening on a large scale.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm going to follow that up and see what's happening there.
Yes,
Because I
yes.
think there's a lot going on in the environment that we're not being told about.
Yes, I agree with you.
Mm.
That's right.
Mm.
I mean, our environment has become so toxified, if that's the correct word, if I just made that up. But it has. It's become so toxic. We're living in a toxic soup.
Mm. Mm.
And there are no really sincere efforts to change that,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know?
Not en masse anyway.
No, not in any major way. I mean, individuals are and individual groups are, but where it really counts, no,
Mm.
there's no
But when
real.
we do see things like uh, dolphins like beaching themselves, and I always think how wonderful it is to see the humans like trying to tend them and send them back out to the ocean and keep them wet until they can move them back
That's
into the
right.
water. And I mean, that's very humanitarian, isn't it? It's
It is. It can bring out the best in people.
yes, very Aquarian.
And remind us that, most human beings are good souls with good hearts and want the best.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
So that's pretty much it.
that's enough.
That's enough.
Is there ever a month where there's nothing happening that's not going to affect us in a great way?
Not really, although I think last month it wasn't sort of overly
No.
big. Like some months it's just full on, like just one after another, big energies moving. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. So, May was always shaping up to be, quite a significant month with a number of significant events. Planets turning retrograde, eclipses, Jupiter moving into Pisces. These are significant things.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Well, there you have it, everyone, from Babula and my little chats on the side. Thank you once again, Babula, for sharing all that information with us. Very interesting to see how the movement of the planets affects the things that are happening on Earth, the people, the animal life, the oceans, the atmosphere, all those types of things.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think, I just wish more people would understand the significance of that relationship,
Mm.
that we might live quite differently to what we do now.
Yes,
Mm.
indeed. Yeah.
So we
Thank
will,
you, Cheryl.
oh, you're very welcome, and thanks for being here. And thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next time
We
on
will.
Astrology Now.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.